Imagine saving every single dollar for one special day. Not for yourself, not for a new dress or a fancy dinner, but for a celebration that happens only once a year. Now imagine giving every last cent of that money to a complete stranger. A stranger who didn't even ask for it. And then losing your job because of it. What would you do? Would you regret it? Or would you believe deep in your heart that something bigger was watching? This is not a fairy tale. This is not fiction. This is the story of a young woman named Nadia, and the day her greatest act of kindness almost destroyed her life. Almost.
Welcome back to Story Tales, the channel where real life is stranger, more beautiful, and more heartbreaking than anything Hollywood could ever write. If you are new here, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this one don't come around every day, and you do not want to miss a single one. I'm your host, and today I want you to sit down, take a breath, and give me your full attention. Because what you are about to hear will stay with you for a very long time. Are you ready? Let's begin. And I promise you, if you leave before the very end, you will never know what truly happened.
For Nadia, Eid in America was bittersweet. Back home in Dhaka, Eid was an explosion of color and noise and belonging. New clothes, home-cooked feasts, cousins running through the house, her mother's hands henna-stained, her laughter filling every corner of their small apartment. Here, Eid was quieter. She had a small community at her mosque, some Bangladeshi aunties, a few Pakistani families, a handful of Somali students from the university. They would gather for Eid prayer in the morning, exchange hugs, share food in someone's living room. It was beautiful in its way, but it was smaller. And the distance from everything she had left behind always made Eid feel like a holiday seasoned with a pinch of longing. This particular Eid, Nadia had been saving up for 3 months. Not a lot, just enough for a new outfit, some ingredients for biryani, a small gift for the mosque's children's fund, and maybe, if she was lucky, a video call set up with her mother where the internet didn't cut out every 5 minutes. She had saved $320. She had counted it out 3 times on the night before the holiday. She was almost giddy.
By the way, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city and country in the comments below. I love seeing where our Story Tales family is tuning in from. And if you have ever saved up for something important, only to have life throw you a curveball, I want to hear about it. Tell me in the comments. Okay, let's continue. It was the afternoon before Eid. The mall was busy, that specific kind of pre-holiday busy where everyone is slightly distracted and slightly stressed. Carts bumping into each other, children whining, registers beeping in overlapping rhythms. Nadia was working the afternoon shift. She had dressed carefully that morning, a pale blue hijab, her nicest work blouse, a quiet excitement in her chest that she was trying to keep professional. After her shift, she was going to pick up fabric for a new outfit, stop by the halal grocery store, and begin her Eid preparations. She had the $320 in her purse, cash, because Nadia didn't trust herself with a debit card when she was in a shopping mood. At approximately 3:47 in the afternoon, an elderly woman pushed open the doors of Hargrove's Home Goods and walked slowly toward the customer service desk. Her name, though Nadia would not know this until much later, was Margaret Collins. Margaret was 78 years old. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair pinned neatly beneath a soft wool hat and a green overcoat that had seen better decades but was clearly beloved. She moved with a walker, a folding aluminum one with tennis balls on the feet, and she took her time. She was carrying a list, a handwritten list, on pale yellow notepaper in the careful cursive of someone who still believed that handwriting mattered. Nadia watched her approach and immediately felt that particular warmth she always felt around elderly customers, a mix of tenderness and attentiveness, something her mother had taught her without ever using words. "Good afternoon," Nadia said, smiling. "How can I help you today?"
Margaret looked up and smiled back. It was a tired smile, the kind that lives at the end of a long day, but it was genuine. "Hello, dear," she said. "I have a list. I'd like to pick up a few things for my granddaughter. She's coming to visit next week, and I want to have her room ready. Fresh sheets, a new towel set, maybe one of those nice little candles she likes." "Of course," Nadia said. "Let me help you find everything." For the next 20 minutes, the two of them moved slowly through the store together. Nadia carried the basket. Margaret considered each item thoughtfully. They talked as they shopped about Margaret's granddaughter who was studying nursing in Pittsburgh, about Nadia's work, about the rain that had been threatening all week. Margaret was sharp and funny. She made a dry joke about candle prices that made Nadia laugh genuinely. She asked about Nadia's accent with curiosity rather than condescension, listened carefully when Nadia explained she was from Bangladesh, and then said, "I've always wanted to go somewhere with real monsoons. The drama of it appeals to me." By the time they reached the register, the basket held a queen-sized sheet set in soft white, a set of pale gray towels, a lavender candle in a glass jar, and a small decorative tray. Total, $287.42. Margaret opened her handbag, took out a card, slid it into the reader. The machine beeped. Declined. A small frown crossed Margaret's face. "Oh, let me try the other one." Second card, different reader. Declined again. The color in Margaret's cheeks shifted, not dramatically, but Nadia noticed. That particular quiet embarrassment that settles on a person when something goes wrong in public and they don't know how to explain it. "I'm so sorry," Margaret said softly. "I'm not sure what's happened. I'll call my bank. Perhaps there's been some kind of fraud alert." She began to rummage in her bag. Her hands, Nadia noticed, were trembling slightly. Please don't rush," Nadia said gently. "Take your time." But Margaret's face had changed. The warmth was still there, but underneath it was something quieter, a tiredness that had nothing to do with the shopping trip, a heaviness that seemed to come from somewhere deeper. "You know," Margaret said quietly, almost to herself, "my husband used to handle all of this, the banking, the cards. He passed 3 years ago, and I still sometimes forget which account has which card." She said it simply, without self-pity, but it landed on Nadia like a stone dropped into still water. She knew that kind of loss, not personally, not yet, but she had seen it in her grandmother's eyes after her grandfather died. That specific disorientation of a person who has spent decades navigating life as part of a pair, suddenly left to find their bearings alone. Margaret was still searching her bag. Nadia looked at the items on the counter. The white sheets, the gray towels, the lavender candle, the little tray. A grandmother preparing a room for her granddaughter. Something moved in Nadia's chest. She didn't think about it for very long, that is the honest truth. She did not calculate or deliberate or weigh the pros and cons. She just acted, the way people act when something inside them is older and quieter than rational thought. She reached into her purse. She took out the cash she had saved for Eid, $320. She counted out $300, tucked the rest back in her purse, and placed the bills on the counter. "Please," she said to Margaret, "let me take care of this." Margaret stared at the money, then at Nadia. Her expression shifted through several things in rapid succession: confusion, resistance, something close to grief, before settling on a kind of fragile gratitude. "I can't let you," she began. "Please," Nadia said again. Her voice was steady and warm. "You were telling me about your granddaughter. She sounds wonderful, and I think every granddaughter deserves a grandmother who makes her room beautiful." She paused. "The money I was going to use to celebrate Eid, that's what this is. And if giving it to you means your granddaughter comes home to a room full of love, then that is my Eid. That is my celebration." There was a long silence. Margaret's eyes were very bright. "God bless you,"
she said at last, and it came out small and whole, like something she had been carrying for a while and was finally setting down. Nadia bagged the items carefully, helped Margaret carry them to the exit, watched the old woman walk slowly toward the parking lot, the bags hanging from her walker. Then she went back to the customer service desk and waited for what she already sensed might be coming.
She didn't have to wait long. Dale Rickford had been watching from the back of the store. He was not the kind of man who missed things. That was something he prided himself on. He had seen the whole transaction, had seen the cards declined, had seen Nadia reach into her own purse, had seen the cash change hands. He called her into his office at 4:15. The office was a small room near the stockroom, smelling of old coffee and laminated policy binders. Dale sat behind his desk with the particular stillness of someone who has already made up their mind. "Explain what just happened at Register 4, he said. Nadia explained, calmly, clearly. Dale listened without expression. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "The transaction wasn't processed through the register," he said. "No," Nadia agreed. "The customer's cards weren't working, So you paid for store merchandise out of your own pocket and let a customer leave without a proper transaction in the system. She was going to pay. Her cards just... That's not how this works, Nadia." His voice had gone flat. "There are procedures. There is a process for declined transactions. You could have offered to hold the items. You could have suggested she come back. You could have called me. She's elderly. She was embarrassed. That is not relevant." Dale folded his hands on his desk. "What you did creates a liability. It creates a gap in our inventory records. It goes against store policy, and quite frankly," he paused, "it sets a precedent I am not willing to allow on my floor." Nadia felt something go cold and still inside her. "Are you letting me go?" she asked. Dale met her eyes. "I'm letting you go," he said. He did not say it cruelly. That, in some ways, made it worse. He said it the way a man says something he has convinced himself is reasonable, calm even, almost regretful. "You'll receive your final paycheck by direct deposit within 72 hours. I'd ask you to clean out your locker today." Nadia stood up. She did not cry in the office. She had learned, in the years of being an immigrant, of being a woman alone in a country that had not always been gentle to her, that some tears were private. Some things you held until you were somewhere safe. She cleaned out her locker. She said goodbye to no one because no one was watching. And then she walked out of Millstone Shopping Center into the cold Ohio air, the evening dropping around her like a curtain. Tell me something. Have you ever done the right thing and had it cost you everything? Have you ever been punished for your kindness? I want to know. Drop your story in the comments, because I think more of us have lived through something like this than we ever admit. Nadia walked. It was about 2 miles from the mall to her apartment, a route she knew well, past the convenience store with the flickering sign, past the small mosque she attended for Friday prayers, past the park, where she sometimes sat on a bench and read when the weather was kind. She walked slowly, not because she was tired, but because she wasn't ready to be inside yet. The evening was cold, not dangerously cold, but the kind of cold that finds its way through a coat if you're not moving fast enough. The street lights had come on. Somewhere ahead, she could smell someone cooking. Onions and cumin, a smell that made her stomach clench with something between hunger and homesickness. Tomorrow was Eid. She had no job. She had $20 left. She had biryani to cook and no groceries to cook it with. She had her Eid outfit from last year, which was fine. It was still beautiful, still hers, but she had been so looking forward to something new. She thought about calling her mother. Then she thought about what her mother would say, the worry in her voice, the questions she couldn't answer yet, and decided to wait. She thought about what she had done that afternoon. She did not regret it. That surprised her a little.
She expected the regret to come in like a tide, flooding the space between the decision and the consequences, but it didn't. She thought about Margaret's face, about the moment the old woman had said, "God bless you," about the bags hanging from the walker as she moved toward the parking lot. Whatever happened next, whatever the morning brought, that moment had been real. It had happened, and no one could take it away. She was almost home when the car pulled up behind her. She heard it before she saw it, a quiet, expensive sound, the kind of engine that has nothing to prove. A black SUV moving slowly along the curb, keeping pace with her footsteps. Nadia's first instinct was to tense. She was a woman. She was alone. It was getting dark. She kept walking, kept her face forward, reached for her phone. But then the car stopped. The window rolled down. A man leaned out. Not young, not old, somewhere in his 50s, with the careful clothes and patient expression of someone who had learned long ago that urgency was a luxury. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Nadia Hussein?" She stopped. "Who's asking?" she said, quietly, carefully. "My name is Philip," he said. "I work for a woman named Margaret Collins. I believe you met her this afternoon." Nadia stared at him. The name landed in her chest like a stone finding water. "Is she all right?" Nadia asked immediately. "Did something happen to her?" Philip's expression shifted. Something softened around his eyes. "She's perfectly well," he said. "Better than well, actually." He opened the car door and stepped out. A tall man, careful in his movements. He was holding a cream-colored envelope. "She asked me to find you." "How did she know where I was?" Nadia asked. "She asked the mall to look up the name on your employee badge," he said. "They were, shall we say, cooperative." He held out the envelope. Nadia looked at it for a moment, then she took it. Her name was written on the front in that same careful cursive she had seen on the notepad in Margaret's hands, the handwriting of someone who still believed that handwriting mattered. Inside were two things. The first was a letter. The second was a check. She read the letter first. It was short. It said, "Dear Nadia, I have been in business for 51 years. In 51 years, I have met thousands of people. I have hired hundreds. I have been deceived by some. I have been disappointed by many. But I have never, in 51 years, met someone who gave away the money they had been saving for their own celebration for a stranger. You did not do it to be seen. You did not do it because you thought I was important. You did it because you are the kind of person who does that. I have been looking for exactly that kind of person for a very long time. I'd like you to come work for me. The check enclosed is your first month's salary, paid in advance. The details of the position are in the second envelope Philip will give you. I hope you will say yes. If you don't, I will completely understand, but I do hope you will. Happy Eid. With great respect, Margaret Collins." Nadia lowered the letter. Her hands were very still. She looked at the check. The amount made her breath leave her body. It was not a small number. It was the kind of number that changes the shape of a month, then a year, then a life.
I need to stop here for just a second, because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, is this real? Did this actually happen? And here is what I will tell you. The specific names have been changed. The city has been slightly altered, but the bones of this story, the kindness, the firing, the envelope, the woman who turned out to be more than she appeared, these things happen. They happen because the world, despite everything, contains people like Nadia, and because kindness has a way of returning to those who give it freely. Every act of genuine generosity creates a ripple, and sometimes, when the conditions are right, that ripple comes back as a wave. Now, let's talk about what happened next. Philip handed her the second envelope. She opened it with careful fingers. Inside was a letter on formal company stationery. At the top of the page was a logo, clean, understated, elegant, and beneath it the words, Collins Luxury Retail Group. established 1973. Nadia had heard of them. Everyone in retail had heard of them. Collins Luxury Retail Group was one of the most respected premium retail management companies in the Midwest. They operated high-end department stores, boutique chains, and luxury lifestyle centers across 14 states. They had a reputation for being selective, for treating their employees well, and for being run by a woman who had built the whole thing from nothing and who, according to industry legend, had never once forgotten what it felt like to start from zero. That woman was Margaret Collins. The job offer was for a position called Regional Development Associate, a role in their Cincinnati headquarters responsible for community outreach programming, retail staff development, and customer experience innovation. It was not an entry-level position. It was not a consolation prize. It was a real job with a real title in a real company, offered to a woman who had been cleaning out her locker 3 hours earlier. Nadia looked up at Philip. "She came to the mall today," Nadia said slowly. "Margaret, why was she at Hargrove's?" Philip smiled. "Mrs. Collins visits retail operations in her company's target acquisition areas from time to time, unannounced. She finds it useful to see how staff behave when they don't know who she is." He paused. Today was one of those visits. Nadia blinked. "The cards," she said, "They work perfectly well," Philip said pleasantly. Nadia stared at him. "She was testing the environment," Philip said, "seeing what happened. She has done this many times." His expression didn't change, but there was something in his eyes, a warmth maybe, or admiration. "She has, to my knowledge, never ended a test by sending me to find someone afterward. That, Miss Hossein, is a first."
Nadia stood on the sidewalk for a long time after Philip drove away. The night had settled fully now. The streetlights cast their orange-gold glow across the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the call to Isha prayer from the small mosque around the corner. A sound that, even after 4 years in this city, still felt like a thread connecting her to something vast and ancient and unbreakable. She looked at the envelope in her hands. She thought about Dale Rickford and his flat voice and his policy binders. She thought about $300 laid on a counter. She thought about Margaret Collins, 78 years old, moving through a shopping mall with a walker and a handwritten list and a test she had been running for decades. She thought about her mother in Dhaka, who had once told her, "Nadia, kindness is not a weakness. It is the most expensive thing you will ever own, because it costs you nothing and gives back everything." She didn't call her mother that night. She cooked biryani. She found enough ingredients in her apartment after all, the kind of creative improvisation that comes from years of making do. And she set one extra plate, the way her family always did at Eid for those who were absent but present in spirit. She said her prayers. She read Margaret's letter 3 times, and she allowed herself, finally, fully, to feel the weight of what had happened. Not the fear, not the loss, the whole thing. The giving and the losing and the receiving and the strangeness of a universe that sometimes, when you least expect it, reaches back. She cried a little. Then she ate her biryani. Then she slept. She called the number on the letter the next morning, after Eid prayers. Margaret answered herself. "I was hoping you'd call today," she said, and her voice on the phone had the same dry warmth it had carried in the store the day before. "Happy Eid, Nadia." Nadia laughed. It came out a little unsteady. "Happy Eid," she said. "I owe you an apology," Margaret said, "for the test. I know it must seem strange, and I know it cost you your job, which I did not intend." "You didn't fire me," Nadia said. "Dale Rickford fired me." "Yes," Margaret said, "and I've sent a note to Hargrove's corporate this morning with my observations about their Cincinnati manager's approach to customer service and staff treatment, but that's a separate matter." A pause. "What matters now is, will you come?" Nadia thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Yes," she said. Good. She could hear the smile in Margaret's voice. Monday morning, 8 o'clock. Wear something you love. Life is too short for clothes that don't make you feel like yourself. Nadia started at Collins Luxury Retail Group on a Monday. She arrived early. She wore a deep green hijab, a new one bought the day before with a small portion of the advance check, and a blazer she had been saving for a special occasion, not sure when that occasion would come. She was nervous. Not the trembling, second-guessing kind of nervous, the alive kind, the kind that comes when you are standing at the edge of something real. Margaret was already in the office when she arrived. The office was nothing like Dale Rickford's cramped stockroom corner. It occupied an entire floor of a glass-fronted building overlooking the Ohio River, spare, elegant, full of morning light. Margaret sat at a long desk, drinking tea from a ceramic mug with a chip on the handle. She looked up when Nadia came in. "Good," she said simply. "You're early. I like that." She stood, slowly, with the careful dignity of someone who refuses to let a body slow her down, and crossed the room to meet Nadia. She shook her hand firmly. "Welcome," she said. "Now let me show you what we do here." Over the following months, Nadia learned. She learned about retail development and community investment. She learned about what it meant to run a business that treated its employees as people rather than line items. She learned how Margaret Collins had started at 19 years old with a single clothing boutique in a rough neighborhood of Cleveland, had fought for every expansion, had been told by 7 different banks that she was too young, too inexperienced, and too much of a risk. She learned, most importantly, that Margaret had never forgotten what it felt like to be starting from nothing, to be standing at a counter trying to make things work, to be one bad month away from a crisis. That was why she tested. Not to find weakness in others, but to find what she believed was the rarest resource in retail: genuine human decency. "I can teach almost anything," Margaret told her over tea one morning. "Financial modeling, operations management, vendor relations, but I cannot teach someone to have a good heart. That they either have or they don't. And when I find someone who does, I make sure they have the room to use it." Nadia thought about that for a long time. In her second year at Collins, Nadia launched a program she had proposed herself, a staff development initiative that partnered with immigrant community centers across 4 cities to create retail training and career pathway programs for recent arrivals. It was, in Margaret's words, exactly the kind of thing the company had needed and hadn't known it. The program placed over 200 people in retail careers in its first 3 years. Many of them were young women who had come from somewhere else, who had worked early mornings at campus cafes and weekend afternoons at dry cleaning shops, who had been saving their money for something that felt like a small beacon of hope in a life that was mostly hard work. Nadia knew all of their names. She made sure of it, because Margaret had taught her that the most important thing a company could do was see the individual inside the employee. And Nadia, who had once been seen at a customer service desk by an elderly woman with a handwritten list and a heart that was bigger than anyone knew, understood this with her whole self. There is a word in Bengali, boromon, that means big heart. It is what people say about someone who gives more than they have, someone who does not calculate what they will receive before they decide to give, someone who looks at a stranger struggling and feels in their bones that the right thing is also the obvious thing, that kindness is not a strategy, it is a reflex. Nadia Hussain had a boromon, and because of it, on the afternoon before Eid, she gave away the money she had saved for her own celebration. She lost her job. She walked home in the cold. And then, because the universe sometimes conspires to reward what is real, a black car pulled up behind her, and a man named Philip handed her an envelope, and everything changed. Not because of luck, not because of coincidence, but because of $300 laid on a counter, and a young woman who believed, even in the moment of giving, that her celebration could look like someone else's happiness. That is a lesson worth keeping.
No act of genuine kindness is ever truly wasted, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you.